Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 183. Today, we're going to be celebrating student innovation, and we're going to be talking to three amazing guests about something called the Conrad Challenge, which is helping students to really be all that they can be and strive for greatness. I can't wait to have everybody come on today and show you this. Of course, before we get into our conversation, I want to remind you that there's several great things happening in TeacherCast. We want to hear from you and learn how your school district is going this year. You can, of course, find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail, and we love it when you leave us emails over at feedback@teachercast.net. We want to hear from you guys. What's happening in your classroom? What is going on this school year? We want to know. My first guest is Nancy Conrad, an amazing lady that's going to be talking to us today all about the Conrad Challenge. Nancy, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
I am so fantastic. It is so nice to have you here. Talk to us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about the Conrad Challenge.
Sure. This is our 12th year of the Conrad Challenge, and what we do essentially is combine innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. And we invite our students, they're high schoolers, 13 to 18, that work in teams, 2 to 5 in a team. And we ask them basically to design the future, so to create commercially viable products to solve global and local challenges.
Now, you said that this is the 12th year of the Conrad Challenge. I also know that you used to be an educator. I never like saying used to be. You are an educator, right?
There is no past tense. It's like being a spy, Jeff. If you're a spy, you're always a spy. If you're a teacher, you are always a teacher. Yeah, I've been around education a very long time.
How did this whole thing start 12 years ago?
Well, let's see. My late husband was killed in 1999, and it took me several years to come up for air. And when I came up for air, I looked at his story and my passion for reimagining education, and I pulled those two pieces together, and voila, Conrad Challenge. And we just launched, you know. I tell everybody I used to be tall, thin, and blonde. And of course, now I'm 5'1". It's a lot of work what we do. But it just really seemed to make perfect sense to take the legacy of my husband, Pete, and combine it with my passion to really transform education, to focus on the consumer, the student.
And in order to make this challenge happen, you are partnering this year and in the past couple of years with the United States Navy. Now, we happen to have a representative from the Navy. I want to bring on ITS-1, Will Johnson. Will, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am fantastic, sir. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for your service to the country. Talk to us a little bit about yourself and what is going on these days in the U.S. Navy.
Well, a little bit about myself is originally I'm from the little town called Hebron, Kentucky, outside of Cincinnati. From there, I waited about a year after I graduated high school, went to join the Navy, went submarines, did 2 tours on submarines. Now I'm recruiting in the world's greatest Navy.
All right, I gotta ask the question here, because this is what everyone in their cars listening to this. What is it like to live on a submarine?
Living on a submarine is really repetitive. You wake up and you work for about 8 hours a day, stand and watch. Then you have 8 hours of just maintenance and time to just hang out with your shipmates. And then you have 8 hours of sleep. And then you do it all over again the next day.
That's pretty awesome. But talk to us about what's going on here. The Navy is working right now with the Conrad Challenge. Why is it important for the Conrad Challenge and the Navy to be working together?
Good question, Jeff. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. So my husband Pete had a little problem reading and spelling. And of course, they just hadn't invented dyslexia yet. And so they thought he was stupid. And they threw him out of this very prestigious school. His mom took him to a little school in upstate New York. And the headmaster saw something in this young man and took him under his wing. Well, Pete was learning how to fly about that same time. And he ended up with a scholarship to Princeton, compliments of the Navy, and Princeton. He was an NROTC scholar. So the intersection of the Navy and the Conrad family is a very close connection. What I will share with you is the rest of that story is that Pete went on to become an aeronautical engineer. Any idea why? Don't have to read or spell, and he liked to fly. And so he became a test pilot, and then when President Kennedy asked for a few good men to go to the moon, Pete liked to fly. So he ended up with 4 flights in space and nailed a pinpoint landing on the moon on Apollo 12. He was the 3rd guy to walk on the moon, and then he flew Skylab, which was our first space station, damaged at launch. He rescued the lab, and then he was awarded a Congressional Space Medal of Honor for that rescue. So it was a story of a young naval aviator, really.
I want to bring on today somebody who has gone through the Conrad Challenge. I want to bring on Ankesh Madan. Ankesh, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you so much for being here today. Now, you have gone through the Conrad Challenge here. Talk to us a little bit about it, and what were your experiences like?
Yeah, first of all, Will, I gotta say, I built a Lego submarine once, and I think it was to scale. So I'm thinking about how confined those are, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. You're killing it. But yeah, Jeff, the Conrad Challenge was a really, really important stepping stone for me in my career because, I grew up in a small town in Asheboro, North Carolina. And I was on a path to go to college and do all these things. And I did end up, of course, going to college. But the thing for me was that I had had very little exposure to entrepreneurship before the Conrad Challenge. And being exposed to the Conrad Challenge, having the opportunity to take fundamental research and thinking, okay, how do we take this and apply it to a real world problem? That was something that was my first exposure, and it's launched me on a career of entrepreneurship. I consider myself an entrepreneur today, and once that bug bites, it never really stops. I'm going to plan to solve problems and build companies and build businesses the rest of my life. And the Conrad Challenge was a big launching point for me to be able to do that.
Now, you did the challenge in 2010, and you were a finalist in the renewable energy category. Talk to us a little bit about your submission.
Yeah, so the product that we came up with this is gonna sound crazy, but we made a product called the pterodactyl. It's a long, really complicated acronym, but basically it was a piezoelectric wave attenuator that oscillates and generates electricity from the movement of waves.
Good.
So to break that down, basically just to really simplify it, it's a ball and it floats on the water. It's like a buoy. It goes up and down. And inside there are these things called piezoelectric crystals. And when you induce stress on piezoelectric crystals, you get a voltage difference, which you can then convert into electricity. So the vision that we had was coastal homeowners, after catastrophes like we had in Puerto Rico last year, that hadn't happened yet, but there are cases where it's really helpful to have some sort of modular source of power that anyone on the coast can instantly have access to and scale to their needs. So that was the original problem that we worked to solve, and the pterodactyl was what we came up with.
Now, Nancy, as you're going through and you're seeing these young entrepreneurs, and obviously Ankesh has now grown into an adult, he's starting his own companies and his own businesses. What is that like to be able to say, we started something and now look at where this has gone with all of these amazing young adults?
I almost feel like the mother of thousands of children. I do, because all of these kids stay with us. They become part of our alumni. They come back to our summit. Let me explain to you what summit is. It's the top of the top. The students, teams that get into the finals get an invitation to come to our Innovation Summit, which we host at Kennedy Space Center. And we've always worked at a NASA facility. I think, Ankesh, you were at NASA Ames, if memory serves you. Mm-hmm. And I think of it as like Shark Tank meets the Academy Awards for students. It's really quite amazing. Mm-hmm. These kids present in real time in front of judges. The judges come from government, industry, academia, from the CIA, from NASA, from Nokia Bell Labs, from the Navy. We've even had a co-founder of Match.com as one of our judges. And they present and they pitch and they really learn how to be in front of an audience, to talk about their product ideas, and to be part of a young community of innovators. And these students stay with us. They, it's not a one and done. They're with us for many years, as Ankesh and many of the other students who participate in our alumni. And they, in fact, host our Innovation Summit. The other piece that they do, and Ankesh, I'll ask you to speak to some of the things that the alumni do, because I think it's fascinating. This year, they're going to be offering their help and services to the students that will be coming into this year's competition as subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to piggyback on that a little bit, clearly, I participated in the competition in 2008. It's one of those things where once you've seen what you can do, you're not content with just doing that, doing whatever you were doing. You want to do more, you want to be more. And, I ended up interning at NASA during college, and, it's 8 years later, but the way we see it and I'm one of the members of the Alumni Leadership Council for the Conrad Challenge. And the way we see it is that, the challenge has been around for 12 years now. And people who took part in the challenge 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 5 years ago, even last year, are subject matter experts in whatever they did. I'm a material scientist by training. We have aerospace people. We have people who know energy policy. We have this alumni network now that has subject matter expertise in a variety of different verticals and industries. So if we can figure out how to map the students who are now working on solving their own generation of problems with people who have either done it before or who are doing it now, I think there's a lot of value to be gained by having that sort of mentorship throughout this year and in the years to come.
So let's take a moment here and kind of step backwards here, because we've been talking about everything literally under the sun here and under the water. But we're talking here about the Conrad Challenge. You can find out more information here at conradchallenge.org. You can find them, of course, on Twitter at Conrad Challenge, Facebook.com/Conrad Challenge. Now, Nancy, as far as we go here, we are looking to have student teams of what, 3 to 5 people?
2 to 5.
2 to 5 people here or so. And registration for these teams closes on Friday, October 19th. Talk to us a little bit about the application process. What are you looking for? What do teams have to do to apply for this?
So the teams form. The students usually form their own teams. They decide what category they want to work in. There are 6 categories this year. Our 4 traditional categories of aerospace, energy, cyber, health. We're also working with the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, so students can come up with technologies and systems for kids to not even ever start smoking, and also to help farmers repurpose their crops, particularly in Africa, because tobacco is going to become extinct. And we are also working with smart technologies and inviting the students to create systems for use in classrooms using technology. So our kids will be doing ed tech essentially. It's pretty cool. So they decide which category they want to be in. They choose their teams. They have to have a coach. That's an adult. That's anyone over 18. It could be actually a college student, could be a parent, could be an after-school program, a teacher. Any adult will suffice. And then they enter the competition by answering 4 questions, register on the internet. Everything is online. They register on the internet, answer 4 questions to a 1-minute video, which is super fun, and they're in. And so that first deadline is October 19th. So kind of think about what you want to solve.
And again, for all these links here, guys, www.conradchallenge.org. The deadline for teams is October 19th at midnight. And again, just to kind of go over these categories here, we have aerospace and aviation, cyber technology and security, energy and environment, health and nutrition, and then we have the two special categories, Smoke-Free World, sponsored by the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, and another special category here, Transforming Education Through Technology, which is sponsored by Smart Technologies. Now, the cool part here is when we bring Will back here. Will, what is the end here? Okay, obviously, you know, at the end of this, there is a big event that happens on April 24th through the 27th at the Kennedy Space Center, but the Navy gets involved with the finals here. What do the winning teams get?
So our big thing is the Gemini Award, which is presented by us, the America's Navy, for distinguished innovation and spirit of Captain Pete Conrad, and it's given to the team with that demonstrates the Navy's characteristic of teamwork, innovation, and hard work. And it's our big one, and we've been doing that for the last 3 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the entries here, okay, I know here that it's students 13 through 18. What are you looking for with all of this stuff? Maybe we can bring Ankesh back in here. Like, when you're looking at teams who are 13 and 14 years old, what kind of projects are you seeing from our young entrepreneurs, our young innovators?
So we've seen everything from a water purification system that can solve if you have nothing going on with like flooding and rescuing people, which would be really important right now. New technologies for use in the International Space Station. We've had students that created a nutrition bar that went to space on STS-134. We've had students create a device to stop hand tremors, a diagnostic for diabetic retinopathy. Wow, I mean, I could just go on for hours and hours. Let me see, I have some written down here because I had to think about this. A rehabilitative medical device to improve joint health. Let's see. Yeah, so that's just a few. There are thousands of these, John.
And the neat part about this, and I know you have this a couple different places here on the website, but all the teams own their IPs. Like, after they present this to you, if they want to go turn this into a full business, if they want to take this concept and run with it, that's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you can sit there and really grow this out. Ankesh, what happened to you and your team after 2010? What happened? Did you see it to fruition? What was the ending there?
Yeah, you know, with the pterodactyl project, or the product that we had developed, we ended up we got a lot of really, really frank feedback from the judges, and it was helpful for us to, once the competition was over, you know, I do want to emphasize that competition is just the beginning, right? A lot of the teams will end up taking these concepts forward into products. For us, after we really started looking into it, we realized that there were some technical challenges associated with the product that just meant that it was pretty difficult at the time to move forwards. Really, that piezoelectric crystals, while really good for generating electricity in some instances, it just wouldn't have quite made sense to commercialize. So, you know, while we didn't end up taking that project forwards, the three of us from the original team, two of us have started companies, and the third person, you know, works at a startup. So we've taken that, I'd say, mindset forwards to develop other products and launch other businesses.
The most important part of this experience is, I call it, to get kids juiced, to get them in a place where they understand how to think and how to learn and how to take a risk and how to have leadership skills and how to collaborate and how to communicate. Those are the most important parts for us. Pete used to always say what was important was what was lighting your candle. And so we just want to get these kids, I think, like I'm Willy Wonka in a juice factory. You know, I just want to get these kids jazzed about learning. And once you learn how to learn, you can do just about anything you want. Let me just share a little piece with you. We created a framework so students and teachers could understand how to do innovation and entrepreneurship. And so we've been, you know, all our lives we think about, well, there's inside the box and there's outside the box. We have a no box mindset. So you can create anything you want, you own it, And it's opened your mind to the opportunity that you can do anything you set your mind to. That's the most important part of what we do.
I love this idea that there is no box. The idea that, as you said, anything that you want. And another thing that I want people out there listening and watching this to get is that this competition for the last 12 years has been opened up to more than 70 different countries.
Yeah.
That's
and all
amazing.
all 50 states as well. And, there's no socioeconomic or geographic. And sometimes kids will collaborate across countries, they'll collaborate across states, across schools. It's up to the students who they want to work with. So it's really pretty cool. Sometimes we get multiple countries in one team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the power of social media and digital media these days.
Exactly.
Now, when somebody puts together their final product, what step of completion are you looking for? I mean, if somebody comes up with a fantastic idea, but clearly they don't have the funds to go and...
It's not about that. So what our competition is about creating the innovative mindset and helping these students to understand no-box thinking. And it's a funneled competition. It all happens on the internet. On the backside are judges and subject matter experts who can help. And the students do a business plan, a market study, and a visual representation of their product idea. Most of them go to prototype. And then when they get into the place where they're being considered as finalists, that's when the going gets really interesting. And the ones that come to Summit are really at the top of their game in terms of what their product idea is. I mean, we're not looking for T-shirts and teacups. We're looking for stuff that can really matter and has social impact.
Now, again, the finals here are going to be taking place April 24th through the 27th. Could you talk to us a little bit about what does that 3-day experience look like for the kids?
Ankesh, how about you describe it?
It's incredible. I mean, you get there. It's at NASA's campus. I did it at NASA Ames Research Center in California. Nowadays, it's at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. But so I was there this past year as a member of the Alumni Leadership Council, and I was just as much as the kids. I was blown away because we walked in, and one of the first things you do is you have this first talk. They tell you a little bit about the challenge, welcome everyone, and then you walk out, and we had dinner underneath the space shuttle, one of the space shuttles, and that's one of those experiences where you are, for the rest of your time there, you are hype. You are trying to you're trying to do everything you can. You're trying to meet everyone you can. You're, meeting people from all over the world. There are a couple of, I think, teams from India. There was a team from China, a couple of teams from Australia this year. So you're having a chance to meet students from all over the world who've been working for 5-6 months on these product concepts that they've poured hours and, hundreds of hours of time into. It's a pretty magical experience, and that was the same case for us even 8 years ago.
And what's it like to work with and meet other, your peers? I mean, okay, meeting the astronauts is awesome, but meeting other 21, 18, 13-year-olds that are doing this, that's got to be awesome to say, look, I've got this drive to be an entrepreneur, to be an innovator, and I'm not alone. Here's somebody else that has like interests in me.
It makes a big difference. That's I think a lot of these kids are coming from areas, or the nice thing about having a competition or having something that's completely online to begin with is that you can be anywhere. You can be in any school district. You can have, as long as you have access to an adult or mentor who's willing to mentor you. It doesn't matter where you're, how developed your school programs are with regards to entrepreneurship innovation. You can take part in the program. And then when you get there, you see people who come from all different walks of life, people who may have taken statistics classes or engineering classes. And then there are other people who are, I think, Nancy, maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of the younger teams from middle school who came to the event. But I think the common theme is that regardless of where the teams are coming from, where they, what the ideas that they're working on, everyone is, applying this no-box thinking mindset, and also just putting a lot of time and effort into solving some sort of problem that's important to them. And that's just an inspiring group of people to be around.
Well, and the very first day of this, Jeff, we start to see these students meet each other and work together. We plan a session for them to integrate with each other and to problem solve in a very quick format, and they can't sit with anybody they know because that would be boring. So they begin to mingle, and almost immediately they become a community of young innovators and entrepreneurs. They carry business cards. One of our judges a couple of years ago, he said, I've never had a 13-year-old hand me a business card in my life. And so they're very impressive. They're very self-aware and self-assured. I had a call from a head of admissions at a university, and he said to me, I just had to call you. I have never seen college entrance applications like the ones that come out of the Conrad Challenge. And my belief is that's because these are students that know how to present themselves and know how to speak and know how to be leaders and communicators.
That's pretty awesome, right? That we're sitting here working with these amazing young adults. Of course, today we're talking about the Conrad Challenge. You can find more information about it over at conradchallenge.org. Well, I want to bring you back in here. Now, when we're looking at these young people, 13 through 18 years old, they're entrepreneurs. They're very, very high tech. They're very, very forward thinking. What kind of careers could these young individuals have in groups, or, you know, let's just say in the military? What in the Navy is available for people like Ankesh? You know, obviously there's a lot of stuff that the Navy offers.
We really do offer a lot of things, and with the the careers path that I would suggest for any of the students involved is either the nuclear engineering program that we have. I also would look at missile technician, which works with ballistic missile systems. There is also the IT rate, the information system technician, because they would be working with the network and cybersecurity in that case for the submarines and ships in the Navy. We also have anywhere from people we have engine men and machinist mates. They work on diesel engines. We have people who also work on hydraulic systems and things like that. So if you're really heavily mechanically inclined, then those are some of the jobs that you would be a good fit for us. Also, we really, really, really need people to be able to think outside of the box.
But there is no
like, I cannot stress that.
Everybody in the car just jumped at that one too.
No box.
No thinking outside the submarine. No thinking outside the space shuttle.
You don't do that.
Can't be.
That could spoil your day.
Nancy, I want to just ask a couple of questions here, and then, you know, I want to talk about, again, how people can get involved here. The relationship that the Conrad Challenge has with NASA. What does that mean to you personally, being Pete Twitter?
So NASA has been our partner since day one. And we've always held our summit at a NASA field center, whether it was Ames or Johnson Space Center. Now Kennedy Space Center has become our home. You know, the opportunities that our students have to avail themselves in internships and some of the other NASA programs, not to mention they get to hang out with some astronauts and see what's going on down at Kennedy Space Center. Blue Origin's just built a huge, beautiful building. Last year we had one of our speakers was from Blue. SpaceX is down there. You know, the next generation of vehicles is being born at Kennedy Space Center. So students get a kind of a peek behind the tent of what's going on in space. And, you know, space is happening again, and it's really very exciting. And by the way, Pete was at the cutting edge of that. In the mid-90s, he started companies working in commercial space. It's now the 25th anniversary of the DCX. And if you don't know about the DCX, check it out. It was the Delta Clipper experimental, flew out of White Sands Missile Range. And that was really the birthplace of the commercialization of space. So what Branson, Musk, and Bezos are doing today stands on Pete's shoulders. The other piece I want to share with you is that we are coming up on the 50th anniversary. So if you check back in with us in a couple of weeks, we'll have a major announcement for you about what we're going to do. And it's going to be quite amazing.
I'm looking forward to doing all of that there.
Yeah, so it will be an extra out of this world opportunity.
So Ankesh, let me bring you in here because you've obviously been a part of the Conrad Challenge, not only as a participant, as a student, but now you're helping it behind the scenes. Where do you want to see the Conrad Challenge go in the future for our youngest of innovators?
That's a great question. I think even this past year, having a chance to go to the competition, I think we're already seeing students take part at younger and younger ages. When I took part in the competition in 2010, primarily the groups were sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school. This time we had groups from middle school who were participating, and not just participating, but winning. And they've come to this national stage. I want to see more and more teams get involved from a younger age. I want to see, as these teams get access to more prototyping resources like 3D printers, and have access to mentors through the Alumni Leadership Council and through the Conrad Network. I want to have teams come to the Conrad Challenge, but have absolutely no anything that they could possibly ever want on the lead up to the challenge should be provided by the challenge. Any type of resources that they could ever need or want, I want to make sure that it's available for them. And I think what we're going to see as a result of that are vastly improved, submissions. We're going to see more people, more teams take these concepts forward past the challenge. And I think, we'll see a future where it's one of those things where you can say, oh yeah, that's just another one of those Conrad entrepreneurs who just did something amazing, right? And I think it can be in a household name where everyone knows, oh, this cool thing that just came out by these young entrepreneurs was part of, or is part of the Conrad family.
So Nancy, you've just heard one of those Conrad entrepreneurs talk about what they want. What does the Conrad Foundation want to see in 10 years?
So what I thought, I want to remind us of something. When President Kennedy announced the moonshot, kids were in high school who 10 years later were running mission control. So think about that. And I look at Ankesh and some of the kids that have gone through the program who are now actively involved in designing the future. That's massive. I'd love to see more and more teams working across countries, because that's when education can start to become diplomacy. I think that would be a really great part of what we can do in the future. I want to share a stunning story with you, Jeff. We have multiple partners that we work with because we're very collaborative. It took 400,000 people, men and women, that helped Pete and the other guys get to the moon. So we work with a lot of different organizations, which is kind of rare in the world of not-for-profits. So one of our partners hosted a conference in New York in July, and the opening night was on the floor of the United Nations in the UN. And one of our students came over from Nigeria, and he stood there on the floor of the UN, and he stood up and he said, he introduced himself, and he said, I'm from Nigeria, and this is my first time in New York City, and they started applauding right away. And then he said, I was a prisoner, and you could have dropped a pin. He said, I was a prisoner of my own mind. I didn't know I could do things until I found out about the Conrad Challenge and no-box thinking. Well, they just ate this kid up. He got a standing ovation. Now, can you imagine coming from Nigeria, you're standing on the floor of the UN, and you get a standing O? Holy smoly. I mean, that pretty much rocked the world. That's the kind of opportunity, because as these students go through our program, winning's the beginning. They get to go to the White House. They've had products. They've done speaking gigs at major events. They get memberships into scientific societies. there's multiple opportunities that happen for these students. They get to connect with world-level innovators and entrepreneurs and leaders in industry, government, and academia. I mean, what else could you want? It's a candy store.
So, of course, we're talking here again to the Conrad Challenge. You can find all the information over at conradchallenge.org. We've talked about all the great things. We've talked about what it can do. We talked about why it's important to be an entrepreneur. But I want to bring up one of the coolest things here. Will, talk to us a little bit about one more thing that we haven't yet mentioned that is a special perk from our friends at the U.S. Navy.
All right. Well, we have a couple of different programs that actually pay for students to go to college. While they're in college, it's kind of seen as a scholarship worth $180,000. And you go through college, you do ROTC drilling. It's called the NROTC program. Now, with that, it's only specific colleges. If you go to NROTC's website, Google it, it's the first link. They will show you a list of schools that it's accepted. Now, after you get through your college, you go into the Navy and you're automatically an officer. So you will be leading and you will be leading the enlisted in. So they'll be the enlisted to do all the work, and you're behind the scenes thinking outside, not the box.
Don't go there.
And then you're just leading the men and women of the Navy, and that's where it's at.
That's
awesome.
That's how Pete Conrad went to Princeton and became a naval aviator and got his moonshot. So, and that's the other thing that I want to kind of talk about for just a second, Jeff. I mean, an educator took Pete under his wing, and Pete got a moonshot. So we want to take our students under our wing and give them their moonshot.
That's awesome. I love that. Guys, first of all, thank you all for coming on the show today. This certainly won't be the last time we have everybody on here. I want you guys, even if you don't have students that are interested, please go over to conradchallenge.org and check all this stuff out. Will, I want to start to wrap up here with you. Any last words of advice that you guys might have as a Navy for any student out there that's even interested in applying for this?
Really, just do it. The worst thing that could happen is you not get accepted, but if you don't try, you're not going to get accepted. So just go out there, try, do your best, and I'm sure it will be good enough to even get accepted in.
Ankesh, any last words of advice? And by the way, how does anybody? Let's go back for a second here. Will, how do people get a hold of you? How do we get more information about the U.S. Navy?
All right, so I am a social media recruiter. I'm the first social media recruiter for the entire Navy. So I work mainly on Instagram, and my handle is @the_USN_recruiter. That's me. I'm on mainly on Instagram, and you can just follow me on there. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. I don't take long to answer.
Not bad.
Ankesh, what about you? Any words of advice for your fellow entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, I think for the students that are applying, and for anyone who gets involved in the Conrad Challenge, it's a community and it's a family. There are I keep in touch with a lot of the alumni today, and I think the biggest thing that the Conrad Challenge brought me is that I built this framework to be able to evaluate problems and think about how to solve them. And that's something, I've had the opportunity to start a company. I evaluate companies now for investment. And, that's a framework that I will use throughout the rest of my life. So really, I saw that, I would say that the Conrad Challenge is just the beginning to this lifelong journey of entrepreneurship and problem solving.
Nancy, 12 years ago when you started the Conrad Challenge, did you ever think that it would grow into this and be able to reach literally millions of students all around the world? This is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, and I think it's fun. You can hear it in Ankesh's voice. I mean, this is fun. This is where you begin to understand your own potential. And, that's great fun. And becoming your authentic self is probably one of the best rides you will ever have.
I mean, I was listening to those, again, I've got 4-year-olds running around the house. I want them to have dinner under the space shuttle. That is an awesome experience right there.
It's amazing. It's so awe-inspiring when you go in and you see this, and it's the Atlantis. And they've done a presentation. Everybody kind of falls to their knees from this presentation. I've seen people just burst into tears. It's so powerful and so impacting. And here we are, this whole family of young innovators and entrepreneurs and the alumni and the subject matter experts and our sponsors and partners. And it's just, the only way to say it to you is it's an Academy Awards.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for your time and your dedication to this program, to education. As you said, we're always going to be educators here.
Yes.
I will give you the last word here. And what advice do you have for anybody that's out there thinking about this and interested in signing up for the Conrad Challenge?
Well, don't think about it. Just do it. If we sit around thinking about stuff all the time, nothing will ever happen. I tell people, Jeff, I don't have a PhD, but I have a GSD. I get stuff done. So you better earn a GSD with us.
I think we have a new subtitle for this show.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for being on this show. We want to hear from you guys. If you're go to over there, conradchallenge.org, register today. You can do all that stuff before October 19th at midnight. The finals again are over on April 24th through 27th. And guys, look, if you're on social media right now, follow them on Twitter at Conrad Challenge, or go over to Facebook at facebook.com/Conrad Challenge. Check this program out. It is absolutely amazing, and I want to have York students be a part of that. If you have any questions, you can, of course, reach out to us over on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail, and, of course, email us at feedback@teachercast.net. We would love to get some feedback on this show and all of our shows. We love having you guys here as a part of the TeacherCast family, and thank you so much for making TeacherCast your home for professional development. On behalf of everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.